Hey you guys, this is Leslie, and today we are going to talk about getting started with zero waste. The concept of zero waste is pretty simple. It's about reducing the waste that you are creating to go into the landfill until you get to the point of zero. So creating no waste that is going to the landfill at all. It sounds almost impossible, yet there are tons of families, maybe not tons, but there are families that are doing it. So we've got people out there that are showing us that it is possible to do this. Now we just have to figure out how to translate that for everybody else so that everybody can participate and be able to make steps in that right direction. One of the big issues is preventing waste from coming into your house in the first place. So we want to not be buying as much stuff, because essentially the things you buy, you're eventually going to have to deal with some sort of waste from them. Preventing packaging from coming into your house. Just don't bring in things that you know you're going to have to throw away. We also need to think about the concept of voluntary simplicity. So living a life that is more simple. Being mindful about your purchases, being mindful about what you're bringing into your home, really paying attention to what your habits are. And as you pay more attention, you can make the corrections you need to make, and it will get easier and easier as you go. We also need to question everything and ask lots of questions. So even though that kind of sounds like the same thing, questioning everything means to question what you're hearing in the media, question what I am telling you, question what you read, question what advertisers are telling you. Don't just take everything for face value. Find people you trust and you can listen to them. It's hard to research everything on your own, but who's telling you this? Where did they get this information? Is this accurate information? Follow the money. Who's paying for this message to be put out? And ask lots of questions. Why do we do things like this? Why do we do it this way? What could some alternatives be? Just opening up that line of questions can give you a lot to think about in which direction you're going to move. In my last video, I mentioned Baya Johnson. Her family of 4 creates a small jar of waste every year. In an entire year, her family just creates this tiny little jar of stuff that's actually going to go into the landfill. I think that's super duper impressive. I don't know that my family can get to that point, but it sure would be awesome if we tried. And no matter what, if we create less waste than we are now, we're going in the right direction, and that's our goal. We're hitting our goal just by creating less in the first place. So it really doesn't have to be super duper hard. We can just work in that direction at our pace, and the more we do that, the easier it will become. So Baya Johnson has a book, Zero Waste Home. She has a website, www.zerowastehome.com. And I'm going to tell you a few things, a few of the principles that she uses today. First, she has 3 steps. Number 1 is to eliminate disposable items. So you're talking about your packaging. The packaging is just there to get a product to you and then to be thrown away when you get home, or hopefully recycled or something. But essentially, packaging is trash from the beginning. It's never not trash. Even though it's holding something together, it kind of serves a purpose, but the purpose is short-lived, and ultimately the destination is the garbage in the landfill. Also using paper towels and plastic cutlery, any kind of paper plates and things like that. All these things you're going to use for a few minutes and then you're going to throw them away. That's all their purpose was ever for, was to be thrown away. Okay, that's not all the purpose. Ultimately, they're bound for the trash, and we want to eliminate as much of that stuff as possible. Instead of a paper plate, you can use one and wash it. Then you get to use it a bunch of times over with no waste going into the landfill. Keep an open mind to alternatives you haven't thought of before. Once you get going on this path, you'll start to look at things differently, and you'll be able to find things that you can do that you didn't think about doing before. Give yourself plenty of time to get used to it, because it is different and it is not what you have always been doing. It's going to take some time to create these habits, and that's okay. We can give ourselves the time to create the habits that are going to stay with us for a lifetime. Number 1 was to eliminate disposable items, and we're thinking about things like your water bottle, that you might go buy a water bottle, drink the water, and then toss it out. You can bring a cup and refill it and use it over and over and over again. And honestly, you can use it for years and years and years. Like, you don't have to create all these water bottles that go in the trash. So think about the things that are destined for the garbage and see what you can replace with reusable items. Number 2 is to buy without packaging. And that seems a little strange because everything comes in packaging, but things are coming in unnecessary packaging these days. So we really need to kind of get the message across to the manufacturers that we actually don't want all this packaging with these products. We don't want the huge box with the tiny little thing inside of it, because all of that is just meant to go into the landfill. We can buy secondhand where there may not be packaging or the packaging has already been dealt with. Try to find items that have zero packaging on them. The more you can do that, the less you have to deal with in disposing of things. Go visit farmers markets. Learn about your local bulk store. They aren't everywhere. I'm hoping that we'll see a big trend of those opening up more and more places, and I definitely want to encourage that. But if you have one near you, start using it. The more of us that start using these, the more it's going to spread. And with a bulk store, what you can do is you can get a lot of your food items without the packaging. You take your own container into the store and you refill your rice or your flour or your sugar or whatever, your beans, whatever it is that you're going to buy. Refill it in your reusable container, take it home, use it, bring your container back to the store, refill it again, take it home. You've eliminated all the packaging that would have been in all that stuff just buying it from the store like you're used to. It's a new habit. It's something you have to get used to. It'll probably feel weird the first time. That's okay. We just have to learn how to do it and then start practicing it regularly. And the more we do, the more others around us will as well. Begin to identify things that you already have that you can use in place of other things. Number 3 is to stop accepting freebies. So if we go to like a street fair or something like that, and we've got people handing us stuff as we go along, and it's fun, you know, you get caught up in it, and ooh, it's bright and colorful, and I'm going to take all this stuff, and I got this bag full of goodies now. But when you get home, what do you do with that bag full of goodies? Are they actually good? Do you actually want them? Do you want them in your house? Or are they ultimately destined for the trash? So when someone is trying to hand you something, really question what it is they're giving you and what it is you're going to do with it when you're done. If you want business cards and information and stuff like that, consider almost all of us have cameras on our phones these days. Like, take a picture of the business card and don't take it with you, because those end up creating tons of clutter and ultimately get thrown away. So another big one is catalogs. We shop different these days. We shop online. We don't need the paper catalog to come in the mail. So cut out the junk mail and the catalogs and stuff like that. That's stuff that's just coming in, and a lot of times you don't even look at it. You don't want it, you don't look at it. It just goes hopefully right in the recycling bin or maybe the trash. Probably a lot goes in the trash, unfortunately. Stop them from bringing it in the first place, and you don't have to then deal with the disposal of it. And a huge one, if you have kids like me, is cheap plastic toys. My kids always want to pop a quarter into those machines, and I absolutely hate it, because you've got the little bubble that's plastic that has to be disposed of. You've got the toy inside that's cheap and is going to break and has to be disposed of. We're using a ton of resources to make this garbage. So we really need to start questioning these things and the value of these things, and teaching our children that these are not valuable things and not valuable habits. I'm still in the process of that. Hopefully it gets better. So another thing that Baya Johnson talks about is the 5 R's. So we might already be familiar with the 3 R's, which is reduce, reuse, recycle. She's added a couple more steps to this to get you down to zero waste. And the first one is probably the most important, and that's to refuse. And like we talked about at the beginning, refusing to let this stuff come into your house in the first place. So this gets into a little bit of the minimalist lifestyle movement that's going on to just refuse to have all this excess stuff, refuse to bring in all this excess stuff, refuse your junk mail, refuse the trash, refuse the packaging, refuse using disposable items, like refuse to participate in the society that is so wasteful and so consumption driven. Stop allowing this stuff to sneak its way into your life. The next one is reduce, which fits in with the minimalist lifestyle. Reduce the amount of things that you use. Reduce the amount of things you bring into your home. Really cut back and you will have less waste. So the next one is reuse. So swap your disposables for reusable items. This is probably one of the easiest things we can do. It just takes making the habit. Buying secondhand fits in perfectly with reusing because you're giving a second life to something that someone has already used. Recycle. The goal is not actually to recycle more, but it's to recycle less because you have less volume of things for recycling. So you still want to recycle everything that you can, but you want to be bringing in less stuff that you would have to recycle. And the last R that Baya Johnson has added is rot. And that is to compost anything that cannot be refused, reduced, reused, or recycled. When you get down to the end of it, you know, it would be great if everything that was left was compostable. What we are looking for here is a cultural shift, and it's going to take a little time, but that's okay. The more of us that get involved early on, and the more involved we are, the more it will spread, the more quickly it will spread. So it really is up to us to go ahead and do our part and start, even if everything you see around you is other people not doing what they should be doing or not participating in being part of the solution. I don't want to say that's okay, but at the same time, like, let that be okay. Just do your part because it will spread. So we want more and more people to jump on board with reducing their waste habits. Waste disposal has been a big challenge throughout history, even back into the medieval times when they were throwing their trash out in the streets and having pigs come around and eat them. It's always been an issue, but we've never lived in a society quite like what we live in today. Today, we have more people than we've ever had, and we're producing more goods than we ever have before, and we're producing more disposable goods than we ever have before. A lot of what is produced is meant to be disposed of quickly, not eventually, but quickly. And a lot of the stuff that's being produced is also really cheap quality and is going to break down. You know, it's all money driven, which is really sad. But we have to kind of go back and recalibrate here a little bit and realize that we need to buy quality goods that are going to last, not stuff that we're going to be throwing right away into the trash because it's only going to last for a short period of time. We also have a unique challenge today in that we have all these plastic items that never existed in the past and that won't break down in the landfills. So we are filling up our planet with stuff that's not ever going to go away, with a bunch of broken, cheap crap that is never going to go away. So we really, really need to take a good look at this. You can't deny the fact that plastics benefit your life in some ways. However, we are way out of balance with this, and there is a lot of plastic stuff being produced that has no place in existence. So we really need to look at that. When they were first creating these plastics, they could never have imagined the world that we live in today. They couldn't have guessed what was going to happen on down the line. So we can't fault them for that necessarily, but what we do need to do is stop and say, now we know, and now we know where we're going, and it's not going to get better if we keep going this direction. So we need to change what we're doing, and we need to rein that plastic supply in. And there are tons of people out there that are working on alternatives. And so we need to support the alternatives that are being developed out there, and we need to support quality products that are going to last, and buy things that are going to last, not things that we're going to break in a minute and then we're going to throw away. We need to teach our children now about this stuff and create new habits for them now so that they can grow up with these habits ingrained in them. We want them to grow up knowing what to do and having it be easy, because when you have something that's a habit, it's easy. That's when it becomes a habit, you don't really think about it anymore. So we want to practice these things without having to really think about them or put a lot of effort into them. But in the beginning, it's going to take effort to get to that point where we make it a habit. If you start with your kids early, those habits they'll fly right with them through the rest of their life. And they're the ones who are going to be coming up with some of the amazing technologies to help fix what is currently broken. In my next video, we're going to talk about some great alternatives to help curb your waste production. And if you'd like a PDF outlining some steps to get you started with zero waste, just click on the link in the description box below and I will send you a PDF. You don't have to print it, you can save it on your computer. We don't need to make the waste. So just take a look at it and start seeing what steps you can take. I'll see you next time.